Hello, I'm recording this video because I want to get criticisms from you all regarding a personal message I was about to send to somebody. A quick build up to this message. A while back I was in a debate with CR Road Warrior, something like that, CD Road Warrior, about Dawkins. He claimed that Dawkins made arguments from authority, arguments from false authority when he made his BBC specials on religion, and that as a professional biologist, a professor in biology, he was not qualified to make statements in regards to theology. He claimed it was an argument from authority, an argument from false authority. I pointed out to him that the premises of the argument from authority is that the argument itself has to stand up on its own merit, and it doesn't matter who makes it. So he was actually making an argument from authority, or a reverse argument from authority, and saying that Dawkins couldn't make any arguments or debates on subjects in which he was not professionally qualified to make them. So I eventually got banned from his site and on YouTube here, and recently I got a reply from someone criticizing my statements, and I had to reply to them in a PM. In that PM, I made the statement in short because he argued against my argument as being hypocritical. So here he replies to this statement that I had made in regards to his post. In short, creationists are mocked for being proudly and willfully ignorant on the subject of whether they have researched online in a library or had a formal education and degree in biology would make no difference. Those statements would be mocked for their innate lack of value. He replies after this quote of mine, "This isn't the whole truth. I sincerely disagree. If you look at many of the comments on YouTube surrounding evolutionists, they do claim constantly about being educated and having degrees and whatnot. I could give you tons and tons of quotes, but I am choosing not to argue semantics with you about this because this is where the discussion will lead. People aren't willfully ignorant when they do research if they are sincerely looking for the truth, which I argue creationists are. The truth of the matter is that we all have the same evidence, creationist and evolutionist, and are looking at the exact same evidence. Our interpretation of the evidence is what is different. Both sides need to be considered fairly. To have critical thinking in the classroom, intelligent design does not have to mention God or gods in the classroom. But that does not mean that it shouldn't be considered as a possible explanation for the universe, for there is still no sufficient evidence yet to prove conclusively that no sort of intelligent designer of any kind exists," which of course is not the statement evolution. Sorry, that's a side. I should wait till I get to my comment. "We're not talking about discussing religion in a classroom. We're talking about having a fair look at both sides of the issue. I say both sides should be brought into question in the classroom, and the students should decide what makes the most sense to them. I think it is horribly arrogant to assume that evolutionists have the perfect explanation of the origin of the universe when creationists have their own explanation that aren't even given a second thought to being looked at. As with very intelligent people in the past and present as many very intelligent people in the past and present have thought intelligent design to be compelling, I'm only asking for a fair debate and the freedom for the students to know what both sides are saying so that they can decide for themselves. Hopefully this isn't asking too much. If it is, then I have no intention of responding to any new messages or comments due to the fact this is clearly bias and censorship, and I have no interest in debating someone who will engage in these tactics out of their own fear that someone else might have a more considerate and more powerful view than they do. Hopefully you don't feel this way." I find that a little ironic because I'm responding to this by PM because I am banned for someone who is censoring, actually. Let's see, my response. I often see them ask some slack-jawed yokel like Gear Up why he thinks he knows more than the accumulated weight of scientific academia, after he has uttered some idiotic statement showcasing his complete and utter ignorance of the subject, and that is a legitimate question. Argument from authority is a logical fallacy, but asking why a person uneducated on a subject is right and one who is educated is wrong is a legitimate question. People who are uneducated can be right, and people who are educated can be wrong, but all the same, I want an electrician to fix my home wiring unless someone else can make a damn good case that they know what they are doing in spite of not having an education working on house wiring. And to do this, they would need to display understanding of how electricity works, safety precautions for both themselves and my home catching on fire. Let's see, going on. People are willfully ignorant if they are not willing to accept anything other than a pre-decided truth. We have the same evidence. It is our interpretation that is different, paraphrasing. If you dismiss some of the evidence on the sole basis that it conflicts with the literal interpretation of Genesis, then you no longer have the same evidence. When you make up answers out of whole cloth, such as light being created already en route to us from stars more than 10,000 light years away, without an ounce of supporting evidence, and then claim it as a fact or evidence, then you have less evidence mixed in with unsupported fiction. Intelligent design is not in the classroom because it has failed to achieve any scientific credibility. In short, it is not in science class because science class is fair, and it has yet to prove its merit. Every attempt at proving irreducible complexity, for instance, has as yet been debunked, and simply saying that something looks designed to you is not a scientific argument. Science and science class do not teach that God does not exist. They teach the theory that best fits the evidence, and that is evolution. That theory says nothing about God existing or not existing. However, since the evidence argues against a literal interpretation of Genesis, it has been opposed by fundamentalists. In short, it is you and yours that are not fair. You want your religion taught in school. Failing that, you want a watered-down version of your religion taught in school. But as science is fair, your religion will have to remain taught at church and at home. It seems remarkably insecure of you and yours that those appropriate locations are not enough for you. Both sides of every issue are not taught in science class regardless of merit. We do not teach astrology alongside of astronomy. We do not teach that the sun orbits the earth alongside teaching that the earth orbits the sun. We do not teach that the earth is flat while we teach that it is round. Just as in history class we do not teach that the Holocaust never happened, even as we teach them that it did. There are a great many would-be controversies in this world. I like saying it like the British, please forgive me. But school time is limited, thus we teach to the best of our ability in school, instead of teaching to both the best and worst of our ability and letting the children decide. If you want ID taught in class, scientists who are its proponents are going to have to work to back it up in the lab and in submissions to journals. They're going to have to convince other scientists that the evidence supports them. If this sounds difficult and time-consuming, well, tough. If this sounds impossible, you are dead wrong, as I shall now demonstrate. A long time ago, the theory of evolution was proposed. It was not warmly received. It was a minority view, and it faced strong scientific opposition. But in time, its predictions were borne out by the evidence, as it was discovered. Opposition was convinced through argument and observation, and we got to the point we are now at. When you think you demand that we be fair, you are demanding the very reverse. You are demanding that ID not go through exactly what evolution went through, and how is that fair? Thus endeth the lesson. Your criticisms, of course, would be most welcome.